So for my final iteration of this level, I didn't make too many changes compared to where I left off in my last iteration. Um, what I got from my playtest feedback were generally uh, positive things, where people felt that the gameplay of the map as a whole felt pretty smooth and pretty okay with how the bomb site were laid out, the path of sort of the pathways from sort of CT spawn to different areas of the map, and also T spawn to different parts of the map. Um, Mid area is basically the same. Nothing changed about that. B site, the layout of it is pretty much the same as well, with the exception that I did replace the set of rocks over here. So before I had three set of rocks that were kind of small. They were identical, and I felt the need to change it just because um, I didn't want players to just stare at, or like when they were playing, this position right here. I didn't want them to have three sort of set rocks that were the same in front of them. So I changed it into one sort of bigger rock where that I think feels a bit more um, cohesive with the general theme of the bomb site, the map in general, and players can still hide behind it. So not the best cover compared to other uh, props on the bomb site, but players can still sort of play around it. So um, I guess the biggest change that I made from my last iteration in this one is you can see terrorist spawn is sort of pushed back, and I'll go into more detail about that, why I changed that. But before, they spawned right here, and I moved them back so that they spawn here now. Another change I made was in A site, where I just basically made A site feel a bit bigger. So specifically, I moved everything from, I guess, this line here. I moved it to the right 2 units, so which also meant that I had to make this sort of underground or tunnel area a bit smaller, which is fine. But I made it bigger because I just felt that before, with the way that the props were placed and how small the bomb sort of the area in which the terrorists can plant the bomb was kind of like small. Uh, it felt really compact and just sort of claustrophobic. So I just gave the site a bit more breathing room. So it's a little bit more open now, but yeah. So the sniper tower. Uh, my playtesters really like the idea of having this pocket of a window here where teams on both sides can sort of throw like nades or smokes or whatever up here, rather than just having this window area open. So right before entering um, B site, when they're either playing retake or just trying to take the site, if players from either team knows that there's a player up here, then before going on to B site, they can sort of smoke that out with the with the with the little window there, or pocket. And not just like for smoking into sniper towers, but also it's handy for a player to be in here, and they can sort of jump and scout out different parts of the map, but also not seeing everything, obviously. So I didn't want players to sort of just have a wide open window here, so that once they peek here, they can sort of come over here and peek. They sort of need to it's sort of like a temporary view where players would have to jump, or if they had a buddy here, they can sort of boost over them. But even then, um, it's sort of like, if you want more of that, advantage of a view, you'd have to sacrifice another player to be up there with you. So, um, that's with the sniper tower. B, again, we had that. I added a rock there, or I replaced a rock. Um, A site, made it a little bigger, and then I guess the biggest change was moving T spawn back. So before uh, T's would spawn here, and they can just go either to B or A, or just go through mid here. But the reason why I moved T spawn back was because the time that it took terrorists to get onto B site versus CTs to get onto B site from where they spawn, and they spawn pretty close to B actually. It's sort of just walking through this hall corner or whatever, and then you're on B site. So before, with the way that the terrorists spawned here, it was about the same time that the CTs took to get onto B. So I decided to move T's back here, just so that it took probably 3 or 4 more seconds for the T's to get onto B site than it took the CTs. So this gave the CTs time to sort of get onto site, sort of set up, position themselves, play the area that they want to play. And even like if the CTs decided to take the longer route, so up here, which adds probably 2 or 3 more seconds versus coming through that way, the T's still had that have that delay now. So it probably takes the T's, if they spawn here and then they just rush onto B site, it probably takes them a total of 10 seconds, whereas for CTs spawning here, if they decide to take the shorter path here, it takes them 5 seconds. If they decide to take the longer path, probably takes 7 seconds. So giving them that extra time for the CTs to sort of set up and get on site really helps. A site, there wasn't really too much of a worry, because moving the terrorist spawn back just took a little bit longer, whereas the CTs takes them probably 6 seconds to get on A site. So not worried about the timing for on A site at all. But moving the terrorist spawn back also meant that I had to add this extra room here, which isn't really that big of an issue, because it just meant that I could add more props to the level, and it kind of gives terrorists more air, or like, I guess, more spots for when in an actual game situation, and the terrorist needs to like save or whatever for a round, save a gun or whatever. It sort of gives them, this extra area room here for them to, hide in corners and whatnot. So I added sort of an archway here because I felt that it just feels better, so that rather than having like a I guess square or rectangular walkway, so that when the terrorists spawn, they turn the corner, and then the first thing they sort of see here is the A and B signs. So that still works out. But I mean, other than that, I didn't really touch or change anything else. Again, What I got from playtest feedback was that the general gameplay and flow of the levels seemed pretty fair, pretty smooth. Um, but they really like this spot here that CTs can play. Just jumping here, hiding behind the box, and then holding his position. And then, yeah, not a lot of changes, but I'd say the two biggest changes were sort of really big changes or drastic changes. Was again making a site bigger, or feel that it's more spacey, not completely compact, and claustrophobic, and then just moving T spawn back so that the timing of going on to B felt right for both teams. So yeah, that is my final iteration for this. I'll just end it off with an overall view.